The old story of civilization. We all know the story. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors were wanderers. Hunter-gatherers, living in small, nomadic bands, following the herds, subject to the whims of nature. Their lives were a constant search for the next meal. Then, around 12,000 years ago, a revolution. We learned to tame the wild. We planted the first seeds, domesticated the first animals. This was the agricultural revolution. And from this single innovation, everything else followed. Agriculture created a surplus of food. A surplus of food allowed us to stop wandering and build the first permanent villages. Settled life allowed for larger populations, for new technologies like pottery and metallurgy. Villages grew into towns, and towns grew into the first great cities. And only then, once we were settled, well-fed, and organized, did we finally have the luxury of time and resources for the finer things. Complex politics, social hierarchies, and grand organized religion with its priests, its rituals, and its magnificent temples. The story is simple, logical, and elegant. First came the farm, then came the village, and last of all came the temple. For over a century, this was the accepted genesis of human society. And it was completely wrong. The Anomaly on a lonely, windswept hilltop in southeastern Turkey stands an anomaly. A place that shouldn't exist. A place that is rewriting the very first chapter of our civilized story. The local people call it Göbekli Tepe, Potbelly Hill. For decades, it was just that. An unassuming, rounded hill in the Anatolian plains. Archaeologists in the 1960s had noted its existence but dismissed it. They saw some broken limestone slabs and assumed it was nothing more than an abandoned medieval cemetery. The secret was almost missed, passed over, left to sleep for even more millennia. But in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt visited the hill. He was not looking for a cemetery. He was looking for something much, much older. He saw that the entire hill was littered with vast quantities of flint chips, the debris from ancient tool making. This was no medieval site. This was Stone Age. He knew, with a flash of intuition, that he was standing on something monumental. Not a natural hill, but a man-made one. A place where thousands of years ago, something of immense importance had happened. He began to dig. And what he unearthed would shatter our understanding of the past. Unearthing the impossible, as Schmidt and his team cleared away the dust of ages, a strange and magnificent structure began to emerge. This was not a village. There were no signs of domestic life. No houses, no cooking hearths, no garbage pits. Instead, they found a series of massive, circular enclosures. And at the heart of these circles, and embedded within their walls, were colossal T-shaped pillars of limestone. These were not crude, unfinished rocks. They were elegantly carved monoliths, some standing over 18 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons. To put that in perspective, this was a feat of engineering on a scale that was believed to be impossible for its time. And the pillars were alive with art. They were covered in intricate, stylized reliefs of animals. Snakes, foxes, gazelles, scorpions, and wild boars. Lions and leopards prowl across the stone. And most ominously, vultures, often associated with death and the sky. This was not simple decoration. This was a complex symbolic world, a Stone Age Sistine Chapel. But the most earth-shattering discovery was its age. Radiocarbon dating of the oldest layers of Göbekli Tepe came back with a stunning result. 9,500 BC. almost 12,000 years old. This is a number that is difficult to comprehend. It is 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. It is 7,000 years older than the Great Pyramids of Giza. It is older than writing, older than pottery, older than the wheel. And most critically, it is older than agriculture. The people who built this staggering monument, this cathedral on a hill, were not farmers. The evidence is clear. They were hunter-gatherers. The central paradox. This discovery presents a paradox that turns the old story of civilization on its head. The timeline is broken. How could nomadic hunter-gatherers, living in small, mobile bands, organize the labor to achieve this? How did they quarry 20-ton blocks of stone from a nearby hillside using nothing but flint tools? How did they transport them and then lift them into place? This would require hundreds of workers, all needing to be organized, housed, and, most importantly, fed. A project of this scale requires a society of a complexity that we thought simply did not exist before agriculture. The old story was clear. Agriculture creates a food surplus, which allows for settlement and complex projects like temples. ANGT, BNGT, C. Göbekli Tepe shows us the exact opposite. Here, we have the temple, C, appearing long before the farm, A. The effect came before its supposed cause. It was the ultimate chicken and egg problem of human history. Unless the old story had the cause and effect completely backwards. The brutal secret. This is Klaus Schmidt's revolutionary theory. The brutal secret that built your society. Göbekli Tepe was a religious center, a sacred pilgrimage site for hunter-gatherer bands across the region. It was the world's first cathedral, and it was the intense, shared religious belief, the idea of this sacred place, that was the driving force. It was the need to build this monument to their gods or ancestors that forced humans to cooperate on an unprecedented scale. The brutal secret is the immense human cost this required. This was not a happy, part-time community project. This was a sustained, back-breaking, multi-generational effort. Hundreds of people, for decades, perhaps centuries, had to be brought together. And that created a new, massive problem. How do you feed hundreds of builders, day after day, in one place? The old hunter-gatherer lifestyle could not support this. You would strip the land bare in a matter of weeks. The theory is that this immense social and logistical pressure, created by a religious imperative, is what sparked the agricultural revolution. The builders of Göbekli Tepe, in their desperate need to feed themselves, likely began to cultivate the wild grasses that grew on the surrounding hills. They started protecting the herds of wild animals they depended on. What began as a solution to a logistical problem for a religious project over centuries became a new way of life. Farming was not a brilliant discovery that gave us religion. Religion was a powerful, demanding force that gave us farming. Civilization was not born from a surplus of bread. It was born from a hunger for meaning. The temple came before the village. A mystery within a mystery, the story of Göbekli Tepe has one final, confounding twist. After more than 1,000 years of use, as new, smaller circles were built on top of the old ones, a strange thing happened. Around 8000 BC, the site was deliberately buried. Its creators, or their descendants, painstakingly filled in every circle. They covered their magnificent sacred temple with millions of cubic feet of earth, stone, and animal bones. They intentionally created the artificial hill that would protect their secret from the world for the next 10,000 years. Why? Why would a people bury their own cathedral? Did their beliefs change so profoundly that they needed to erase the old gods? Was it a ritual burial, a way of decommissioning a sacred place that had reached the end of its life? Or were they hiding it from a new group of people, with new ideas, sweeping into the region? We may never know. It is a mystery locked within a mystery. A new Genesis, Göbekli Tepe, does more than just change a timeline. It gives us a new origin story for society. It proves that the software of our world, our shared beliefs, our myths, our religions, is not a byproduct of material comfort. It is the engine. It is the operating system that allows for large-scale human cooperation, the very thing that separates us from all other animals. Göbekli Tepe is the first great physical monument to an imagined reality, a story so powerful it convinced thousands of people to abandon their ancient way of life. We are not just clever farmers who stumbled into civilization because we had full bellies and free time. We are storytelling apes, driven by a profound, ancient, and sometimes brutal need to find meaning. A need to build sacred spaces. A need to cooperate in the name of something bigger than ourselves. That drive was so powerful, it forced us to reinvent our relationship with the Earth, to domesticate the planet, and to set ourselves on the long, complicated path to the modern world. The brutal secret is that society wasn't built on comfort and ease. It was built on the backbreaking, sacrificial effort to give physical form to a shared story. The first thing we built together was not a house. It was an idea. Subscribe to Epoch Echoes, where the oldest stones tell the newest stories.